Welcome to the Copeland Coaching Podcast, where it's all about turning your job search into a slam dunk. Your host is Angela Copeland.
Welcome to the Copeland Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Angela Copeland. Live on the phone with me today, I have Molly Lavik in Los Angeles, California. Molly is the founder of InSight, a consulting and media company dedicated to mentoring people in superachievement and producing access to success. Molly is also a mentor, author, and professor. While spending thousands of hours teaching MBA classes and advising corporate leaders over the past 20 years, Molly has developed a deep understanding of the challenges we all face in achieving our goals. In fact, I met Molly over 10 years ago when she was my professor at Pepperdine University in Malibu, California. Since then, Molly has been a great mentor and friend to me. Molly, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Angela, and major congratulations on Copeland Coaching and pursuing your entrepreneurial dreams, and you're helping so many people.
Oh, thank you, Molly. You were actually my professor, I think, for a few entrepreneurship classes.
Oh, yes. And you were a brilliant student, and I'm not at all surprised with all that you're doing. It's so impressive, and thank you again for helping many people out there.
Oh, well, thank you. And you recently published a book called Going Supernova, The Bold Path of 101 Superachievers. And in it, you detail more than 100 high-performing people, including some people I'm big fans of, like Guy Kawasaki, Dick Bowles, who is the author of What Color is Your Parachute, and Susan Lucci. So first of all, congratulations on that, because you got tons of really awesome people to sit down with you.
Oh, thank you, Angela. It was a lot of fun.
So what were some of your favorite stories from the book?
Oh, thanks for asking. Well, one of my favorite stories was yours. Your Angela Copeland story from career explorer to career coach. And I remember you stood out at Pepperdine. Tell a little story here. When all the MBA students were graduating, you had a unique strategy you used, and everyone else was really struggling to get job interviews as they were graduating, but not you, Angela, because you branded yourself. You created your own website, and you had your resume up there, your portfolio. And what I remember most is you were going on all these interviews all over the globe. It was so exciting. Do you remember that?
Well, I used to interview kind of like it was a hobby. I really liked it.
Well, I have shared your website and how you branded yourself with many students, and it's a great technique. And thank you for sharing your story about how you accomplished that. A couple other of course, all the stories are my favorite. That's why I put them in the book, and they all have wonderful lessons to share. But quickly, a few that stand out. There's a gentleman named Andy Funk, and his story is about having a tremendous injury, yet still competing for the Ironman triathlon and making it across the finish line. And it is a true story of perseverance and not giving up, which is a central theme in the book, and something that I'm sure you've probably found in your coaching really makes a difference. And you know what? I'm really fond of this saying. I say it a lot to people that I'm talking to. I ask them, what are you going to do? Are you going to hold? Are you going to fold? Are you going to scold people? Or do you go bold? And that's what Andy did, and some of the other stories, including yours. And that means having a great courage in life. I'm grateful to all the superachievers who shared their personal firsthand accounts of how they found super success and super achievement in their life. And I like to mention the two people who grace the front and back cover of the book. They're pilots. Pilots are very courageous. One is Patty Wagstaff, who's an incredible woman acrobatic pilot, and the other is pilot Ronald Wayne Trumbull, who took his own plane soaring way beyond its altitude limits in Hawaii. So those are a few examples.
Oh, that's so interesting. And I like the fact that you kind of talk a little bit about resilience. And I really like the term grit in terms of people who just don't give up and they push forward despite things like the injury that you mentioned with the person who did the Ironman.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Very important.
Right. Well, so of all of the people that you met with, did you notice, I mean, I feel like we've started to touch on it, but what were some of the themes that you noticed that super achievers were doing that were different than other people?
Yeah, Angela, I sure did. I had a type of epiphany. I didn't expect this before I started, but after I talked to 189 people that have super achieved, I found 5 common traits, and the good news is they're very easy to emulate. And that's how I divided the stories in the book. So the first one, talk about grit and courage. It's stepping outside your comfort zone. And it's when you look fear in the eyes and you take on something that actually scares you, that's when you're close. That's when super achievement happens. And, in my 20 years of working, I got disappointed myself from coaching people that didn't pursue their dreams. And there's a quote by Mark Twain I wanted to share, and it goes like this. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bow line, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. I think Mark Twain has a great way of saying it. There are 4 other things, too. And again, grit, that comes when you transform adversity into opportunity. Look what you did yourself, Angela. You took a very challenging time looking for work, and you branded yourself, and you made it a real opportunity to go and meet all these wonderful people. Full-Throttle Focus is the third one. I had to get that myself to write this book because I have a client that takes up a good majority of my time. And time is something we all struggle to find, right? Well, I created a do and don't list, no more TV, not on Facebook. I said no to my friends getting together and my family. It was hard. But when you get in what they call the flow and you're just so incredibly focused, that's when superachievement happens, and it usually takes great sacrifice. Number 4, self-exploration. And this is one you're so good at, Angela. It's going on trips, taking journeys. And if you aren't in a position right now to travel and get in touch with your inner thoughts, then take a staycation and go somewhere fun locally. But take a long shower, take a long walk, and really get in touch with your inner voice and what is most important to you. And the final one is zigzagging. So a lot of us have this preconceived notion there's one path to accomplish our big dream in life. Not so. It turns out that people that try multiple different things eventually find their common point of where they're headed and what they say your true north. All paths can lead to where you're headed. You have to try multiple things and then you'll get there. And I call it like a sailboat tacking the wind, zigzagging. So those are the 5 traits that I found that really stood out.
Those are really great suggestions. It's funny. I think, I believe you put my story in the zigzagging section.
Yes.
Right, because I've changed careers a few different times. But interestingly, all of the things that I've done sort of have led to the point that I'm at now.
Absolutely, Angela. It gave you the experience and the wisdom to be able to go out and coach people on their careers. So you got where you were headed through your zigzagging.
It's interesting. And, when it comes to sacrifice, I think you're right. All of the people that I talk to who have done really big things, I mean, you do give up things. You don't get to go to as many social functions, and, you have to sometimes make choices for what's the most important, because unless you can truly focus your energy on something, it's hard to really move that needle forward in a productive way.
So true. And it doesn't mean you can't still have fun. You're making different decisions, and it's not forever. But the sacrifice really has to be there, yes.
Right. I think there definitely has to be a high level of discipline. I mean, you don't always have to be an expert at every single thing you're trying to do, but you do have to put in a lot of time and be very dedicated to figuring things out.
Absolutely.
So, Molly, for our listeners today who may be trying to, think of how they want to achieve their passion and their purpose in life to try to sort of transform their dreams into reality, I assume that the first place that you'd really recommend that they, start is with these 5 things that you've mentioned. But are there other suggestions you might have for where they might begin?
Yes. And in fact, I created just for today, everyone grab your pen and paper or get to your laptops, iPads to take these down. I created a 5-step process to success just for today's interview.
Great.
Yeah, and I'm going to run through it and give you a summary of it. And the good news is it's very straightforward and easy to follow. So here's what I'm suggesting. Step 1, create a happiness log. So often people focus on, tell me what's wrong. What's causing your problem? It turns out the thoughts in our mind really are the intentions of where we go forward. So having a positive mental attitude will take you everywhere you want to go. And the way to get that is to write down those things during the day that make you happiness. Maybe it's, give you that happiness. Maybe it's having a candy bar, going for a long walk, or a project, or an accolade from your supervisor. Whatever it is, take a bullet point note of it. So that's step 1. Step 2 is your purpose prophecy. That's where you discover your purpose-driven pursuits. And I'll give you a quick example of how that worked for me. When I went to college, I wasn't sure what my major would be. And I was just lucky. I was out one night at an event, and someone I met asked me the question, what made you happy in life, say, back when you were in high school? And I thought about it, and I thought, well, I really liked music theater, but I didn't sing. I wasn't a great actress, but what I loved was making sure every seat in the theater was full. I put up flyers and make that happen, and I threw these lavish cast parties for everyone and came up with a profit for the events and just really helped the whole production in that way. And he's like, there you go. You want to go into public relations.
No way.
that was another epiphany in my life. I found the major, and, I got in touch. I took my passion, filling the theater, and matched it with a purpose-driven career path. So step 3, once you've got your purpose outlined in your mind, I call it blog yourself there. And this is one of my favorite techniques that I use, and I think you do too, Angela, and here's what it is. So a lot of times when you're trying to get in a new career path, we try and set up an informational interview. And it turns out not so easy. People are busy. You can't get in touch with them. So instead of calling someone and saying, can I do an informational interview, why don't you call them up and say, I'm very impressed with your career path. I would like to write a blog about you and cover, some advice and wisdom that you have going forward. Is there a time we could briefly talk so I could interview you? And presto, who doesn't want to, share their advice and be in a blog? You're in. And so that's in a way the technique I use to reach 189 very busy superachievers. So blog yourself there. And then step 4 is create a vision board. I have one up right now, and you know what it says at the top? Have a great podcast with Angela this morning. And so you put up on your vision board all those stretch goals and small steps, put pictures in, staying healthy, being with your family, put it all up there. You don't even have to have a board. Tape it to a wall. Put it somewhere that you can see and stare at it first thing in the morning, last thing at night, and you start to really set those intentions at the front of your focus. And number 5, so you've got your vision, you've got your purpose, you know what makes you happy. Now, how do you get that job, okay? And my recommendation for step 5 is to volunteer your way in there.
Oh, it's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to get hired. You are never too old or young to volunteer. And, quick story, when I was getting in, I wanted to go into hotel PR. So I got a job in the marketing department of the largest hotel in the world. I was so excited. However, I was the sales clerk reporting to the receptionist, and everyone's like, why are you so excited about that job? I felt like, I had won the lottery with that job because guess what? Every night before I went home, I went to all the major departments, including the PR people, and said, what can I do to help? Can I write a story for your newsletter? Can I come in early tomorrow and help you with paperwork? And you know what? There was a layoff, and they added an entry-level PR person, and guess who got the job? I did, and I'm sure it was because of my volunteer. Same thing, final story on these steps. I'm now running the Sustainable Business Council for a great board of directors out here in Southern California, and that whole job came from volunteering at first.
Oh, that's great. I work with a lot of clients who want to move into an industry where they may not have a lot of experience, and that's a hard thing to sell to them. I mean, the idea when you are, into your career that you might volunteer your time, it seems strange to many people. But in the same way, when we go to university, for example, we're paying to learn and to make connections. And this is very similar where you kind of are putting in time, donating time to create connections, to increase your skills. I think it's a really good place to begin.
Yes. And, try these 5 steps. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And I couldn't agree with you more, Angela.
You also mentioned sort of having purpose and kind of figuring out, you mentioned about, in your case, sort of being able to organize the theater and, making money, getting people to come in and realizing you wanted to switch into PR. And similarly, when I was in college, I went to school, as you know, for computer and systems engineering. And so much of the work that we were doing on group projects had to do with, build a computer program or build some type of an electrical system. And often I would be the person that organized everything and kind of designed our marketing materials. But at the time, it was because I felt like I was the least good at being a computer programmer. And so I did those things by default, I thought. And when I was a senior in college, one of our professors asked us to write a story about someone who had sort of touched us or made a difference for us. And one of my classmates, who was an amazing computer programmer, wrote a story about me and how I was making such a big difference through this kind of work that I was doing, organizing the team and marketing and, all of these things. And it was this moment of, wow, maybe I'm not just doing it because I'm not the best computer programmer. Maybe I'm doing it because I'm actually really good at this. And that for me was also a big sort of career shift in a different way. But it allowed me to kind of focus more on my strengths than on my weakness.
Yes, and it's that kind of getting in touch with yourself. Sometimes it takes an outsider to see what's right in front of your face. And, we have these, I call them guardian angels, that come to us and share these wisdom about our future, and we just have to pay attention and notice. So what a great moment.
Yeah. And I've done some speaking events recently where I was asked by younger people, if you could talk to your younger self, what would you say? And I would say, I would focus more of my energy on what I'm good at as opposed to being better at what I'm bad at.
That's a great lesson.
Right. Well, in addition to these are great tips, but in addition, I know that you have some tools, including like a mobile app and some other things that our listeners can check out. Can you talk to us a little bit about those tools?
Yes, the book is actually part of what I call the MentorInsight.net toolkit, and it's a comprehensive grouping, again, another 5-step process, and it goes like this. There's a free personal assessment survey on goal achievement that we have up online that anyone can take. And it measures how close you are at achieving those 5 traits that I mentioned at the beginning, from stepping outside your comfort zone to zigzagging. And then once you know what you need to focus on, maybe it's just full-throttle focus. The book is the next step. Each of the 111 total stories are divided into the traits. So you would go and read up on the personal stories of people in the trait that you're working on, or the ones that you're doing well on, to reinforce what you're doing. And then from there, it's just not enough to be out on your own, as you found from that feedback you got from a great classmate. You need to build what I call a circle of support. And I've created an app called Gusto Career Coach app. It's in the Apple App Store, and it works like this. The first thing you do is you make a list of people that you'd like to mentor or advise you, and you get their email address. It could be your parents, a good friend, a colleague at work or school, or someone out there that you don't know that is doing exactly what you hope to do soon. And then you go and register on a website that we have up, and and I know, if you're out there thinking, I'm afraid, or I don't want to suffer an unfamiliar face, that's very common. You don't have to. We've got a beautifully written letter that will come from you inviting these people to join your calendar network. And if you're going, what is she talking about? Well, this calendar network is a calendar that syncs up in the cloud everybody's calendar. So it doesn't matter if your mom's on Google and you're on Outlook and another person's on iCal. All these people are going to come in and mentor you by looking at what you're doing. So the last point I want to make about this, though, is don't panic. They can't see your calendar activities. They can just see that you're busy, and you can just see that they're busy at certain times, unless you use this app to set up an appointment or share a milestone. You can use this for anything, including a book club or a group, a school group that you're working with, and invite people into your calendar. And it's a whole new way of sharing what you're doing and having that circle of support literally right in your smartphone carried around with you. So from there, there's 2 more steps. To reinforce all of this, we have the Superachiever Studio, and we've just launched it. It's a virtual online platform similar to what you might get from Bravo's Inside the Actor Studio on acting, but it's on business lessons. Mm-hmm. We have high profile people speaking, and you can, through as long as you have internet access, beam yourself in and see. They can see your face, we can see yours, and you ask live questions, and it's as if you're right there next to the person and get their insights. And we're going to have very high-profile people. And last but not least, it's important to have ongoing support, so we have a membership group that we're starting up of superachievers and training and superachievers all working hand in hand. So that's the toolkit.
Oh, that's great. So you mentioned the speaking events where you can kind of see what's happening and like watch these speakers. How often will that be happening?
I'm hoping to do them monthly at first and eventually weekly. We've just got the technology all in place, and we did our pilot episode. I have it up on the website now. People can see it, and it went very well. So, eventually weekly, and I am taking suggestions for people to invite.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So if someone wanted to go to the Apple App Store and download the app, what would they search for?
Gusto GUSTO, and that's an anachronism, just FYI, for Going Supernova Traits Optimizer. So it's Gusto Career Coach, those 3 words, and it pops up.
Oh, great. Okay, good. Well, so that kind of leads into my next question, which is, you have spent a big part of your career supporting the idea of mentorship. In some places, you have been a mentor. In other places, you've been a professor, and you've also really promoted mentorship. What got you involved in the idea of mentorship, and why do you believe in it so much?
I think it's back to the future. Centuries ago, people learned through apprenticeships, and it was a very good way to learn a vocation. There's something you can gain when you stand on the shoulder of giants, and that's really what mentorship does. It's your shortcut to success. And at Mentor InSight, we have a long-term goal. We're working on creating a hologram that is like Obi-Wan Kenobi, a guru that you can summon to the palm of your hand for advice on anything, anywhere, at any time, because that would be the ultimate. It just puts you so much further ahead when you can benefit from the lessons of those who have gone before. That's why I've always believed in mentorship. I've seen the power of what it can achieve.
That's great. So how long have you been involved in mentorship? I mean, is this kind of has it been sort of your entire life, or has it been a certain period of time?
You know what? It has actually been since I was 8 years old, and I think it started out because I was an advanced gymnast, and I had a coach. And when I started, I could barely touch my toes. And having a coach, which is the ultimate mentor, just like you're a coach, Angela, it transformed me. No one could believe in just a short time I'm doing no-handed cartwheels on the balance beam. And that's the power of mentorship. It can fill in the skill gaps and show you the way. So a long time, and I've incorporated it, throughout my education. I mentored my fellow students, and in my career, first in marketing, I was a mentor to other people in public relations, and then, of course, I got into teaching, which is a form of coaching and mentoring, and formally, I started my business back in 2002, mentoring. So a long time. It is,
That's
I
great.
could say.
Uh-huh. I didn't realize that you were a gymnast. That's interesting.
Yes, it's surprising, especially because I'm very tall. I don't fit the traditional model for a gymnast, but anything's possible with a mentor.
Right. Well, so speaking of that, you are also what is called a Superachievement coach, and you provide a variety of guidance for business professionals, entrepreneurs, and those who are seeking help navigating their health and wellness and lifestyle goals. So I work with a number of people who are really trying to decide whether they should become entrepreneurs or whether they should work for a corporation or maybe a nonprofit. When you talk to somebody that's kind of, at this crossroads of going into business for themselves or going to work at a corporate job, what advice do you give them to help make that decision?
It's a personal decision, and everyone has to move forward in the way that's best for them. But my encouragement is to just go do it. Do it now. Pull the ripcord. Try it. What do you have to lose? We are so fortunate to, reside in the United States, somewhere where there's endless opportunities. There's no reason that you can't start a business. The only thing that can prevent you is yourself. There are so many free resources out there, including, I wanted to mention, SCORE, which is available at public libraries. You get a retired executive for free to advise you on your startup idea. You can certainly start a business while you're working. You don't need to give up your day job. So my suggestion is, if you're thinking about it, stop thinking about it and move to action steps and get started.
Well, that's a good piece of advice. Do you think there are certain traits that entrepreneurs have that are a little different than those who fit really well into corporate?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that question. It's the ultimate question: is an entrepreneur born or bred?
Mm-hmm.
Can anyone be an entrepreneur? And the truth is, it's entirely up to you. Anyone is capable of being an entrepreneur. It goes back to the happiness log. It really comes down to where's your passion point? If you're someone who really enjoys structure and having people, telling you what to do and staying with something and refining it over and over, then you're probably happiest at a corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're like me, and I suspect like you, Angela, because you do have that entrepreneurial spirit, we thrive in ambiguity and creating our own path forward, and we're really we're really finding our happiness when we can unleash that part of our personality and go forth and create something new. And you might not be sure, so again, try it out. See how you're feeling. Either path has its ups and downs. The grass isn't always greener anywhere, but if the best thing is to move forward because life goes so quickly. This is your time to take the chance and try it. You have nothing to lose. So if it's in the back of your mind, I say do it. Do it now. Start a company.
Absolutely. That's such great advice. Well, so one of the things, too, that I think is really interesting about you and very impressive is that you are what's called a super connector. And your network of people that you know is enormous. I think that's reflected in your ability to put together your book and talk to so many high-performing people. But I work with clients. I actually had a discussion yesterday with a client who really needs to expand their personal network and to start to develop kind of a personal board of directors that you kind of mentioned before with your app. And a lot of clients that I work with are very afraid to do this because they're afraid that they will offend the person, that they will be a bother to the person. But I remember you telling me once, I'm trying to think of who this was about, but you told me you had attended a speaking event and you waited until the event was over and you got in line and you had a question prepared to ask the speaker. And you did that in order to make a connection. So to me, part of the reason you have all these connections is that you're very brave when it comes to meeting new people. For the listeners that are listening today that are afraid about meeting new people or reaching out or afraid that they might be a bother, what advice do you have to them to help them to kind of break through that?
Well, first of all, no, you are not alone. It could be the number one thing that people fear most. However, I encourage you all to Google Louise Hay. I've never met her, but she changed my life. She has this philosophy that our thoughts are our future. The thoughts, if you can change your mind, you can change your life. So the first thing I recommend is change that self-talk that where you're saying, I'm scared, I'm afraid, into, Molly Lavik, you've got this covered. You go, girl. You go talk to them. They can't wait to talk to you. Even if you're laughing because you think that's not true, start to tell yourself that. The power of these thoughts are amazing. My book, after 6 months of working on it, and my goal was to have 101 stories, I had 6. And thought, how am I going to do this? I had some dark moments. I stopped, believing in myself. And one morning I got up, and it was after I heard about Louise Hay and started reading her books and watching her movies. Someone called on the phone. They go, how's it going? And I said, it's going great. I'm ahead of schedule. and I think I was laughing, like, what, in my mind, but I just kept telling people that, and you know what? Boom, they all started to come forward. So first of all, you can psych yourself up for anything. So that's, you have this one opportunity to meet someone, make it a game, make it fun, make it challenging. However, if that's still not going to work for you, if you've decided you're just not going to go there, do things like get the Gusto Career Coach app where you don't have to directly call on someone, or the best thing you can do is befriend someone like myself or you, Angela, because we're super connectors. We live to connect people. So if you decide you really don't want to be the one out there meeting these people, just spend a little time with someone out there who's always name dropping and introducing you to people, and they'll connect you for you. So that's a shortcut.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things, too, that I talk to my clients about is oftentimes the type of person that you're interested to meet. Maybe they're a CEO of a company or they're a really impressive executive. You don't become a CEO of a company usually because you're just really smart. You are usually a great networker, and you yourself put yourself out there and meet new people. Like, that's part of being an executive, is being able to network and know a lot of different people. And so, what I've told people is I know it feels really different to you, this kind of networking, because it's new. But the types of people that you're going to be approaching, this is probably something that they are already doing, and that's a part of their sort of everyday practice. So it's not like it's also going to be completely foreign to them and completely out of their comfort zone as well.
That's right. And, Angela, we both graduated from the Graziadio School, and I was so lucky to know George Graziadio, who the school is named after. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you, I'm a very successful businessman, had his own bank, major mall developments, and I don't think he graduated high school, self-taught, brilliant, mm-hmm. nicest person. And when he passed away, I was doing the PR at the Graziadio School, mm-hmm. and my job was to call the memberships that he belonged to, mm-hmm. and there were over 100. I couldn't believe one older person could belong to so many places. And I called them, and they, everyone was sad, and they all got on the phone with these stories about how he wasn't just a member of this golf club or this organization. He was actively involved with all of them. Mm-hmm. And it made me realize, wow, one person can really do so much. And that's a fun way to network. Join organizations that you enjoy, and you'll meet people naturally that way too.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. It's a great point. There's one other thing I wanted to mention. Yesterday I was working with a client, and actually this has happened twice in the last week, and it made me think of you because I think this is some advice that you gave me a long time ago. But I was working with a couple of different clients who really have some big dreams, and their big dreams are very different from those people who are around them, their family, their friends, their kind of immediate circle. And I asked them, I said, do you have a support system of people who understand your goals? And they said, I absolutely do not. And they said, every time I tell my family these big dreams, they tell me that I'm crazy and that I should stop and that, why do I want to pursue these things? And my recommendation to them, which is very in line with kind of what we're talking about, was to begin to develop a personal board of directors, to try to find people, whether they're professors or executives or just other people who are very sort of wise or knowledgeable, to sort of invite them into your life in a way and to begin to connect with them on a regular basis so that you do have that support system as you pursue these big dreams.
I couldn't agree more, Angela. And you know what? And here's news for everyone, when you pursue big things and they start to happen, the naysayers, the people telling you you're crazy, it's going to increase. So you just have to develop a thick skin for that, and tell those people you love them. This is what you're doing, though, and then find your peeps. Find those people that no matter how badly something's going or how out of the norm it is, they're going to be there in your corner. I like to think of it this way: if you were in a foxhole and it was during a war or a crisis situation and someone yelled incoming, that you're under attack, who would you like protecting you in that foxhole? those are the people. Those are the people. Spend your time with. Call them. They believe in you, and they're going to cheerlead you and help you get where you're going. And you absolutely need that support system. What great advice, Angela.
I think in the way that you describe it is also really important. I know for me, I was living in Memphis working at a big corporation here when I quit my job to go to graduate school at Pepperdine. And I had a number of people, especially people that were very close to me, who said, that's crazy. Your job would pay for you to go to graduate school at a local school in Memphis. And why do you want to go away to school? Why do you want to pay for it? Why do you want to move to a place where you don't know anyone and you don't have a job? But I knew that that's what I needed to do. And so I had to start to, reach out to other people who understood kind of my vision and look for that support, because it's definitely hard to make that kind of a move completely on your own. And so I encourage people to really look for those who will be advocates for you and who really get what it is that you're trying to do.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Some of the biggest achievements, I have a book that has them written up, and I might not have it totally accurate, but the person who invented the telephone, when he presented it, was told, why would anyone want it? The biggest market would be 2 people.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So you can look back, look at Steve Jobs. When he started Apple, they removed him. And he had to go start some other business, and eventually they saw their mistake and brought him back. And thank goodness now, we wouldn't have our iPhones and iPads and iWatches and all the rest. But that is so common. The naysayers, as they call them, and our mutual friend, Guy Kawasaki, Angela, he calls them, don't listen to the bozos out there. You've got to find your people that are in your corner, and they're there. You just have to look for them, and believe me, they're going to stick with you through thick and thin, and they're going to be the ones you call when you have your down moments, and you need those people very much so. And you'll be there for them too. It's a two-way street, and it's a wonderful alliance.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. Is there any other advice that you'd like to share with our listeners? Is there anything that we missed?
Yeah, I wanted to say, don't give up on your dreams. Our thoughts really are our reality. Set the right intentions, and you can go everywhere. Believe in yourself. Surround yourself with people who support your success, which is what we've been talking to. And last but not least, positive affirmations. I wanted to close today by telling everyone how I start my day, and I learned some of this from Louise Hay. I have a positive affirmation. I look enthusiastically in the mirror no matter how I feel every morning, and I say this: I lovingly forgive and release everything from my past. I choose to fill my world with joy. I love and accept myself. I express gratitude for the good in my life. I am healthy, whole, and complete. Each day brings wonderful new surprises. Ami tofu, ami tofu, ami tofu. I attract people with the highest social responsibilities and values. I seek them out each and every day in every way. I surround myself with people who respect my time and contribute to my success. And, you might say, wow, that's a mouthful, but that's how I start every day. And no matter how rough the day is, it really puts it on a positive footing.
Oh, that's nice. Well, thank you for sharing that, Molly.
Yeah. And I hope everyone develops their own positive affirmation to say in the mirror each morning.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if our listeners are interested to learn more about you, or to get a copy of your book, or to download your app, where do you recommend that they go?
Yes. First of all, friend me on Facebook and reach out and connect to me on LinkedIn. Email Molly, MOLLY .LA is an apple, V as in Victor, I as in Igloo, K as in Kangaroo, that's Lavik, at mentorsight.net, or call me, 310-488-4401. And finally, get a coach. You should be working with Angela if you're not already, because career coaching is priceless. the people who superachieve the most have multiple coaches. You could also work with me if you have a major goal you're working on achieving, because I am open for business for achievement coaching. And so get a coach, get many coaches. That's going to help pave your way to success.
Awesome. Well, Molly, thank you for joining me, and thank you for the glowing endorsement. The discussion today has been really helpful.
Oh, thank you, Angela, and good luck, everyone out there.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Tune in next week for another edition of the Copeland Coaching Podcast. And if you haven't already, please be sure to download the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher to ensure you never miss an episode.
Thank you for listening to the Copeland Coaching Podcast today with your host, Angela Copeland. Tune in next time to get more great tips on turning your job search into a slam dunk.